Oh, we got a game here. Let's see what QXH6 has to play. E4. Here, let's try this Scandinavian. So my rating has dropped down below 2,000. I lost some games, so that's what happens. But you remember I was above 2,000 at one time, right? Okay, so I'm going to... this is going to turn out to be something like a French defense, I guess. Going to put these pawns up here and develop my knight to c6 and try and attack that that pawn. Oh, this is very strange. He's trying to put pressure on d5. He's attacking with a pawn and a knight. So I can kick his knight by playing d4. His knight can go to e4. I play knight c6, and he can defend it with either knight to f6 or pawn to f4. It'd be a funny looking pawn structure. Could also take. He takes back with the bishop. If I don't take and just develop my knight, say he takes, I take, yeah, it's still protected. Yeah, let's just do that. Let's not make any commitment on the pawn structure in the center just yet. See how he wants to defend. So he defends with the knight. Okay. I can bring more pieces to bear on that pawn pretty easily. Anyway, very original opening play. He can play knight to b5. Maybe I should have paid more attention to that. Knight b5 with the idea of hopping into d6. Might be kind of annoying. Knight b5, I would just play knight g6 immediately, and if he comes in there I can take with the bishop. So yeah, maybe it's not a big deal. I think that wins a pawn, taking it with the bishop. So, okay, he's going to stop and think at this point. Okay, he didn't come all the way to d4. Sometimes they try d4 anyway. So I'm just going to go after that e-pawn. It seems like that would be a good accomplishment for me to win the e-pawn. He can't bring his bishop out to defend it. He can't play bishop f4. He can push his d-pawn to d4, yeah. And when I take, takes back with the knight, and then I take the e-pawn. I think this is okay. Maybe I lose the d-pawn. Is that what happens? So let's pause. Pause to defend my d-pawn. I can still take his d-pawn at any time, or he can take my c-pawn. Either way, it'll leave that e-pawn under-defended. So I think I still have ways to get pressure against that e-pawn. And I don't want to drop my d-pawn. He can play knight to knight or bishop to g5 might be interesting for white. Taking advantage of this diagonal here and the weakness. The knight there would be, I guess, with the idea of going after the bishop. Bishop there would be going after the queen. Well, maybe I'd just interpose. I might just interpose. But then this pawn is pinned. But he has to resolve that, yeah. So I guess I would still be able to round up that c-pawn. Say, for example, bishop g5, bishop e7. Okay, so he goes that way, pins my knight. So now let's take. Okay, he throws in that exchange. I thought actually it would have been better for him to keep the pressure up. So now my my d-pawn is securely defended. I just have to worry about defending the defending my c-pawn. He can take the bishop, which he could have done with the knight g4 move too. But I can actually take that pawn with check now, can't I? So even if he takes my bishop, I can take with check and then grab the knight. He can play f4 now and defend the pawn that way. Maybe that's the way to do it. I can develop my bishop castle. I guess that's what I should do. So what's this structure look like? It's 4 pawns against 3 here and 3 pawns against 2 here. I guess I have the passed pawn. So maybe that's good. I thought this was good for me, right? This check. How is he going to block the check? Well, we'll see. I thought he could just defend that pawn and it'd be better. And be fine. Yeah, if he does that, I have to continue to trade because I have to do everything with check until I take his knight back. Or check or some other tempo move, but I think it has to be check because he can move the knight with check. He's even threatening to come into c2. Okay, so I could castle queenside. I could develop my bishop. That looks good. Can move his king and put pressure on my e-pawn. I can play pawn to e5 and then castle and try and get something going on the f file or the b file here. I think I should be good. Okay, let's just castle now. He still can't really bring his bishop out to f4. There's this saying in chess, I think Tartikover said it, that the knight rarely stands well on knight 3. Either the king's knight or the queen's knight. But in this case, it looks like it's controlling some useful squares. So for every general rule like that, there's always an exception. So I could move my bishop all the way down to f3. Can he really exploit that? He could bring his rook up, I guess. I should do something about my e-pawn first. Okay, let's first things first. Recognize your pawn is under attack and play it. Then get all my pieces going here. So it should be okay for me. I'm just a pawn up, and it's a central pawn. My extra pawns are in the center. Yeah. I have 3 pawns in the center, and he has 2 on the wing. But it leaves weaknesses, right? All these pawns are exposed to potential attacks. Okay, so now rook to f3 comes with a tempo against the knight. The knight is defended or it moves, and then I can double on the f file. Yeah, so he moves his knight back there. I'll still double. That kind of keeps him a little bit tied up. I could bring a bishop to bear on the f2 pawn as well. So now maybe I want to reposition that knight. He can defend with rook to e2 as well as bishop to e3. He went there. What's his idea? Does he want to go to c3 maybe? Maybe just trying to connect rooks. Okay, well, let's add a little more pressure here. If he plays rook to c1, I think I can just go ahead and take. 3 attackers and 2 defenders. So I think he needs to make a defensive move here. Rook e2, like I said. Then I have to be careful about, rook c1 hitting my bishop and the pawn behind it. So maybe after rook e2, maybe I just drop the bishop back or bring it forward. Let's see, is there something more exciting, more direct? Knight here hits the rook, but I think he can just take it. Yeah, let's bring that bishop forward. Try it that way. Rook c1, pawn to c4. Kind of immobilizes the bishop in a way, but I'm going to, I think, push the e-pawn next, so my bishop will be stable there, and I'm controlling squares on white's side of the board. So it's good in principle. After e4, then after e4, my knight can go to e5, knight to e5 to f. e5 to g4, and that would be another, that would be hitting both pawns, hitting h2 and f2. So now he goes there with the bishop. Yeah, this is actually good timing, isn't it? Because now after the exchange, some of my pawns will be hanging. But how is he planning to play this? I guess he will take back with the knight. Let's see. Can I play e4 and let him exchange? Because I don't have to take that bishop. My bishop is protected. And, well, it'll, you know, double one of my pawns, but these pawns will still be very dangerous in the center here. And like I said, now I have this knight e5 to g4 idea. I thought that was pretty good. e5 to d3 maybe is also interesting. Yeah, that hits the pawn and it hits the rook. But he might just play rook to rook c2 to defend everything, and maybe that's okay. Knight here, rooks here and here. Don't see any immediate way to exploit that. Knight back here, the rooks move. Well, we'll see what he does on this move, though. It depends. All depends on white's move. So what else can I do besides take the bishop? I can try and undermine. So I could exchange the bishop and play d5. Say bishop takes, knight takes, pawn to d5. The knight moves. My e pawn is hanging and my c pawn is hanging. And I could still, no, I couldn't. I can't do that. So what else could I try? I could take, he takes with the knight. And I play knight e4. What's he could take either pawn. Yeah, I want to get that knight e4 move in there somehow. Let's see. Maybe after a pawn push or two, maybe knight e4 is good. So knight e4 now, that gives him a little too much freedom. Let's take this pawn. Let's kick the knight first. Yeah, I think I can avoid losing material by taking here. Where is he coming in? He's got a check, which I'm covering at the moment. So he can grab a pawn now. He can grab the e pawn. Yeah, my pawns are looking a little bit fragile. But say rook takes e4, I could play pawn to d4. Oh, he forks those two pawns. That's interesting. Let's go, do I want to pawn to d3, hitting his rook and forcing him to take that pawn, or pawn to e3, threatening f2 again. Isn't that breaking through on f2? Pawn is pinned, so I take with the rook, I guess. So it seems like getting a rook to the 7th rank is worth something. I have a lot more pawns than he does, but he's also threatening to just scoop them all up. So it's kind of a race in a way. Who can scoop the most pawns? But I have the advantage, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 versus 3. And after these exchanges, the H pawn and the A pawn will be hanging. My B pawn and my E pawn are hanging. Okay, so he defends the H pawn. I can take the A pawn. And I probably should, because then I can push the E pawn forward if he doesn't take it. And if he does take it, then I can play A5 and defend the B pawn. So I think this is holding things together. I just have to make sure I don't get mated by some check on the back rank. That would be embarrassing. So he's going there. The check here, if the knight were covering the F2 square, I'd be in trouble. So knight to that square, or that square, is going to threaten checkmate. But that blocks the knight here, blocks the rook, so he can't check me. And knight here, I can take it. So what to do? Probably pushing the pawn forward is the right thing to do. Yeah, so he brings his rook to the back rank. Let's see. So if I play b2 now, he can put his rook in front of it, and I can bring my rook here. He can just take with the knight, but I can take his rook. His rook will be pinned. If I go here and he moves the king, then I will go rook there, hitting his rook. Yeah, I think b2 wins. Wins a piece, at least. His rook being pinned against the back rank. Oh, that's clever. His knight defends the rook where it is. Okay. This guy is too smart. Too smart for my own good. Let's see, though. Knights are very tricky pieces. Sometimes they can't actually stop a pawn that's so far away. Okay, so let's bring my king in. And bring my king forward. And let's see, I can bring my knight over to this side to help promote this pawn. Does he want to take all my pawns? Is that his idea? That's not a bad idea. If he can trade off all my pawns, it'll be a draw. Need to make sure I have at least one pawn left after all of this. Like I can give up a pawn over here if I win a piece. But that only works if I have some pawn left on this side of the board. So I can't let him win this pawn. So how do I stop that, though? King here, maybe. Just sort of blockading. If he pushes the pawn forward, I can go king all the way to... Okay, so now let's bring the knight over. So if I play knight here, check. It's one of those tactics that might work. If the king moves, I take the knight. If he takes my knight, I push the pawn forward, and he can't get back in time to stop it. Yeah, always look for these little checks and tricks in the endgame. That's what I mean about the knight being an awkward piece. It just can't get back and defend. It cannot defend the square, the queening square. So a nice little endgame trick for you. Let's make a queen. And he resigned. Okay. So good game. I will upload this and do a postmortem. See you guys later. Bye.